Welcome to Feeling Seen, the podcast about the movies and the characters that make us feel seen. I'm Jordan Crucchiola. My co-host today is someone that is such a privilege to get the chance to meet and talk with. In 2004, Alice Wu made a groundbreaking indie film called Saving Face. The film is based on Alice's own experiences coming out to her mother, and now, just over 20 years later, Saving Face has been added to the Criterion Collection, where it is now available on Blu-ray. Alice and I are going to talk about Saving Face and about the ways that she felt seen by pieces of two very different characters. The titular Frances Ha from Noah Baumbach's Frances Ha, and Holly Hunter as Jane, the whip-smart producer from James L. Brooks's phenomenal movie, Broadcast News. She is the director, Alice Wu, of Saving Face, which is getting the Criterion Collection treatment. She is also the writer-director of the excellent film that premiered on Netflix, The Half of It, which was also an award-winning film out of TIFF, where it premiered. So, Alice Wu, what else do the people need to know about you before we get started on top of those two things?
Oh, wow. First of all, thank you for that very kind introduction. I should also say, which I said earlier, that part of why I agreed to be on this podcast is I'd read Jordan's work before. And in my memory, I had read her work about either Taylor Swift or Cats, or possibly the musical Cats.
Yeah,
and thought
it would
was
have been
so
the movie
funny.
Cats for sure.
Yeah, and then I immediately signed on board. And so thank you.
I will say for the folks who cannot see you, I do love your sweater vest that you are wearing.
Oh.
I love your patterned sweater vest.
Thank you. There's so many holes in it because I've worn it since the 90s. Like that's how old I am. You said that like, and it's inspired generations upon generations. And I was like, I'm so old. 20 generations I've inspired at this point.
I was able to go to Sundance this year, and I got to see the premiere event for The Wedding Banquet, and just an incredible cast, one of which you are very well acquainted with in Joan Chen. They were having a conversation about like getting to act with legends and like how incredible, like, you know, Bowen Yang and Lily Gladstone are talking about how amazing it is to be in this movie with Yoon Jong-yeon and Joan Chen and YJ, which they called her. They lavish all this praise on her, and she just like takes this pregnant pause and then goes, all it means when you're a legend is that you're old.
Yeah.
Like, she just, like, there was absolutely no, like, she was so a wonderful, dry, perhaps sense of humor, perhaps just being totally matter of fact. She's like, all you're telling me is that is that I'm ancient.
Yeah,
like,
she speaks the truth.
I guess thank you all so much.
Yes.
But like, okay, well, Joan Chen. Okay, so Joan Chen, who is as radiant now in the role of coming to terms mother in The Wedding Banquet as she was in Saving Face 20 years ago. How does it feel if you're like, God, this makes me feel old, but like you're getting Criterionized?
Yeah, that's
true. Cool. How does that feel? This movie's already been validated. You've already heard over and over again about how validated it is. So I'm not saying that you needed Criterion to elevate this work to the stature that it is already at. But like, what's the feeling around it?
Oh, wow. Well, first, I do want to say that Joan is actually one of my best friends. She lives in San Francisco, and she literally does look that radiant. That's not film magic. In real life, the woman doesn't age. It's really incredible. But she also has, and I think this is maybe the secret, she has this very youthful energy, you know, like, because we get together and go on these walks and we talk. I sometimes think about the content of our conversations, and I feel like they would not be out of place for like two high school girls to be having that same conversation. You know, it's like we both still seem to be like, we don't know what is happening. And we sort of discuss that amongst ourselves. And I think there's that like incredible, maybe it's a sort of childlike radiance that she has. I mean, she's obviously very, very beautiful, but I think it's a childlike radiance she has that comes out on screen. I think that is a large part of her appeal and what's so alive when you're watching her, no matter what age range she's supposed to be playing, is she always feels like, someone who is becoming, you know?
Yes. Oh, God, that is such a good point. Yes.
Yeah. In terms of the criterion, I I'll be honest, it's still sinking in.
Yeah.
But I also don't know. I mean, most of my friends are not in the industry. I live in San
Hmm.
Francisco. And so for the most part, my life doesn't feel any different really ever, except for the
Hmm.
tiny moments of time
Hmm.
when, well, either I'm shooting a movie, and that's incredible and fun. But then like maybe I go to someone's doing a screening and they invite me to a Q&A.
Hmm.
Because I've actually never watched my movies by myself, like on DVD, ever.
Hmm.
I've only seen them in the context of at a screening where I'm watching an audience watch it and then I answer. So sometimes years will go by and I've not
Yeah.
seen anything, right? So it kind of feels almost like there's this other parallel life that
Hmm.
I sort of slipstream into, and
Yeah.
I do that, and then I just slipstream back into my otherwise very boring and normal life and continue on. Where my friends don't even know what the criterion is. Like they're very happy for me. They're
Yeah.
like, that sounds great, but then we really just talk about what we're gonna eat next. Like I don't, it's not and I mean I don't want to downplay for me it mostly like for me it was such a incredible moment of uh validation that I never even expected to have or knew I would want.
Right, of course.
Yeah, because it's not when the movie, first of all, it was just shocking the movie came out at all. And then
I
it was
feel like even
shocking
more in
that,
hindsight that maybe it was at the time. Like from the way that you've talked about it, it's kind of like, listen, I didn't know
yeah.
what I didn't know. This is my first feature. This wasn't like my life track. And so it was like, yeah, I made the movie I want to make and like looking back on it, it's kind of like, shit, we got away with that?
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, and I think definitely we got away with that, followed by, okay, well, now that that happened, I will just quietly go back into my life. And I really didn't think, it's funny, this is actually something I'm a little bit closeted about, but I've finally been challenged to come out about it.
Hmm.
So long form improv is a big part of my life, like UCB style.
Really?
Yeah, for many
Oh,
years.
that is the, as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned, that's the hardest creative discipline a person could like that and drag, like
Oh,
those two things,
yes.
which is like kind of like I feel like an
I
extension of
can't
like
even go
long
there.
form
I'm
improv
so
art, but
impressed
like
with people. Yeah.
the idea of like putting like really being like I'm gonna put myself out there and challenge myself to do this thing and let alone be good at it in front of people, that's scary as
Yeah, and
hell.
let's be clear. I don't know about the be good at it piece. Like, let's
Irrelevant.
not go that far. But no one in my real life has ever been allowed to watch. Like, I perform in the main stage Friday night show, and no one is allowed to come. I just do
Wow.
it as, but it's in San Francisco, which I greatly. There are a lot of talented people here. By most, what I
Hmm.
really love is no one here is trying to get on SNL. Everyone is just
Hmm.
doing it for the pure love of it. But I bring it up because about it was like almost 5 years into my doing improv. One of my first improv teachers who became a really good friend, one day was like, wait a minute. You are the filmmaker who made Saving Face. That's one of my favorite movies. How have I known you for almost 5 years and I didn't even know you were a filmmaker? And she
Wow.
found out because someone posted something on my Facebook.
Sure.
It was back then. And and I was like, yeah, Katie, it's true. Like I am that Alice Wu. And
Hmm.
she was just like, how have you never brought this up? And I was like, why would I bring it up? What a really weird thing if we're in the middle of talking. It's like, by the way, did you know I made a movie once? Like, that's so douchey.
Right.
So for me, I think it's almost feels like this other role in my life that is almost a little bit separate.
Hmm.
And it also, so it was a huge shock. I think it was when the half of it came out, when that's when I realized, like out of nowhere, all these people started writing on social media to be like, oh my God, I've been waiting for a next film.
Yeah.
And I was like, who are these people? Like, I really
Yeah.
genuinely thought it was just my friends, their girlfriends' ex-girlfriends, and like,
Which is the most L word thing a person could say.
yeah, and honestly, with more and more people being gay, that community is maybe slowly growing more and more.
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
also true that young gays, for the most part, I assume didn't know who I was.
Mm.
They probably still don't. But then every now and then, someone would be like 20 and come up and tell me, I saw this. It means so much to me. And I would be like, you were like 1 year old when this movie came
Right.
out. Like that would blow my mind. So the
Mm-hmm.
Criterion piece blew my mind further because I guess I thought, okay, that's incredible that this movie has a level of longevity in, this community I belong in, a couple of communities I belong to.
Yeah.
But I don't really think of myself as a filmmaker. I
Sure.
think of
Yeah.
myself as someone who every now and then I have something I'm dying to say, and then I try and say it. And then those were those two films. And I've only written three scripts for myself to direct ever. Two are the films I made. Now I've written this third one, and maybe I'll make it. Maybe I'll get, who knows. But other than that, I think of myself as, I guess just me. And when this happened, it felt like this weird kind of, you are now in this elite canon of indie filmmakers. I mean, I don't know if
Right.
that's what it means, but to me, that's how it felt. Is that,
Sure. Yeah.
and it was, I guess I'm still absorbing that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe one of the ways that has helped is I was just in New York. I just got back yesterday. And when I was there, I happened to I'm still in touch with some of I had a really great crew on both of my films,
Oh,
separated
that's so
15 years
wonderful.
apart. But the first one, that was like 22 years ago when we shot that
Mm-hmm.
movie. And I happened to be like, hey, I'm going to be in town. Like, if anyone wants to get together. And like, my DP took the train down from Boston. Like, we all met up
Oh,
in a
wow.
Boston beer garden. And it was so, like, we were all so happy to see each other. Like that crew really loved each other. And that I think felt very real. Like, because a lot of the people are not even in the industry anymore. And then the ones that still are, who've worked
Mm-hmm.
on so many more movies, it was very special to me that they would still come together
Mm-hmm.
for this one. And I think that maybe feels, I mean, legacy's too big of a word, but
Sure.
I think that's the kind of thing I feel is like, oh, I'm really proud of the fact that we created something that was so hard to do,
Mm-hmm.
and that we all so genuinely still love each other. Like, and the
Mm-hmm.
actors as well. The actors were a family, the crew stayed together as a family. So now to be able to be like, guys,
Yeah.
also we really kind of maybe affected the cultural conversation is just
Yeah.
like this incredible.
Like all of you
Yes.
together who made this thing. This
Yes.
belongs to all of you.
Yes, multiple people in the cast and the crew have said to me before, that shoot felt very special, and it felt like no one on that shoot didn't really, really want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that when your budget is so small, nobody is making enough money to warrant the kind of abuse that a film shoot puts on you.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're only left with the people who are really passionate. And so I was very, very lucky and grateful for that. They were very generous with me.
The aspect of like the intimate scale, I'm going to take that into our first title to discuss today. And I really was excited about how both of the ones you brought to talk about they did feel started organically, very much lacing themselves into like interviews I was reading with you and the way you were reflecting on your own work. And the first one I will bring up is Frances Ha, which I had never actually seen. And this was the perfect occasion to finally take that one in.
Good. If I've done nothing else.
Tell me the story of us.
Again? All right, Francis. We are going to take over the world.
You'll be this awesomely bitchy publishing mogul.
And you'll be this famous modern dancer, and I'll publish a really expensive book about you.
The D-bags we make fun of will put on their coffee tables.
And we'll co-own a vacation apartment in Paris.
And we'll have lovers.
And no children.
And we'll speak at college graduations.
And honorary degrees.
So many honorary degrees.
Reading the suggestion, what initially got me so excited about is that Lady Bird, I think, is actually the single most mentioned like feeling scene touch point that I think it's at least 5 people now have brought that into conversation. But this is like the pure concentrate of Greta Gerwig, sort of like the idea of her and like the persona that she created. And this is a friendship love story. This is a platonic romance between two best friends living in New York, but right at normally where a movie would work up to kind of like the struggles of this friendship, and that would be really the core of the movie that we can't really get away from the entire time. It's really a catalyzing incident for how Frances's story plays out over the rest of the movie. And given that half of it gets into aspects of this platonic romance between perhaps like the two best friends, your male and female sort of central characters, Ellie and her friend, and then within obviously Saving Face, it's a romantic relationship, but it is also the relationship between Wilhelmina, and her mother, played by Joan Chen. And so I wanted to hear from you about what was it that got its hooks in you about Frances Ha.
Oh, yeah. I love what you just said. And I do also want to say I do love Lady Bird, but I felt more seen by Frances Ha. And I should also say what you said earlier was so, it was just so perfect in that I think you're absolutely right that when, I'm 55. And so growing up and the kind of movies I was watching, there weren't as many options, and certainly Western movies, where I could be like, that character, exactly me. So It very much was a patchwork kind of thing. And I think in the two I finally picked, I certainly don't look at the character of Frances Ha and go, oh, totally, she's exactly like me. Because there are many ways that we wouldn't seem like a fit.
Yeah, I would say Frances is a Flibberty Gibbet who is figuring out.
Trust me. No, I think it's what it is it's emotional recognition. So the thing that I see is I think that there are things she is going through and things that character says out loud that I think all the time, and certainly at that time in my life, and wouldn't say, right? But I so related to it and I so appreciated. I love, for me, what I love is that in a weird way, because I love immigrant stories, I feel almost like this character feels like an immigrant in her life, where she keeps going from like weird sort of community to community, and she does not fit in anywhere. And it's so like, first she's trying to hang out with the downtown young hipster scene. And it's so obvious. Like at one point, I love there's some beat where she just says to this guy, I'm sorry, I'm not a real person yet.
Yeah.
And I so understand that, where she's just like, okay, I need to make this work. I don't know how to make this work.
Thanks for paying. It's very sweet. You're a lady.
I'm sorry, but the card didn't go through. Do you have another card you want to try?
Oh shit, sorry. This is a debit card?
Only credit cards are cash.
Okay. I'm so embarrassed. I'm not a real person yet.
I got it.
No. I'm just gonna go run and get some cash.
Then there's like, oh, she's trying to figure out how to fit in at like her dance, at that dance studio, and she doesn't really fit in there. She's trying to be at an adult dinner party, which is just unbelievably cringeworthy, right? And while I think I had enough, like I'm a repressed enough person that I would know enough not to say some of the things she says.
Yeah.
I have definitely been that person who I'm thinking to myself, why does everybody else, it feels like everyone else got the script to the dinner and I was the only one who did not get the script, and they're all totally on script. And I am like, oh, fuck. Was I supposed to have prepared lines? I don't know what the lines are. Oh no, too long has gone by and I have not said something. What am I going to say? And then finally the one thing I say would probably be like where everyone turns and looks at you and you're just
like a record scratch moment. Just like, yeah, all right, Alice. Yeah. All right.
Exactly. And so I think I so felt for that character then. But what really, really is the moment I most remember is at that dinner party, she talks about what she really wants. And she's talking about it in the context of a romantic relationship. But now that I'm a lot older, I do think of it in the context of almost any possible love relationship. And she's talking about you're in a room and you're in a conversation with someone.
It's that thing when you're with someone and you love them and they know it and they love you and you know it, but it's a party and you're both talking to other people and you're laughing and shining, and you look across the room and catch each other's eyes, but not because you're possessive or it's precisely sexual, but because that is your person in this life. And it's funny and sad, but only because this life will end, and it's the secret world that exists right there in public, unnoticed, that no one else knows about.
It's like, like you can communicate without saying a word. And it kind of reminds me of one of my favorite books in college was this book, Mama Day by Gloria Naylor, where she also says, the narrator talks about how if you're with someone long enough, at some point only you own the codes to that person.
Oh, wow.
And so
what a
you
line.
could, I don't know that she says that line, but that's like, but you basically, you could have an entire wordless conversation in a room and nobody else knows you're even speaking, right? Like that's, and I always thought, to me, that is the kind of love I want. And how I kind of took Frances Ha is, especially in one's 20s, and to some degree, maybe, especially if you're gay, your 30s, because I feel like puberty is delayed when you're gay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a classic question. Are they gay or are they just awkward? Like, there's somebody in my neighborhood who I run into frequently who for a long time, it was like, I don't know if she's gay or just awkward. And finally saw her holding hands with the gal she brought home. I was like, woo, all right, like more in the neighborhood. But it was, for a long time, outstanding question.
Oh, really? Do you feel like do you yourself feel like, am I gay or am I awkward, or you?
No, I have never met imposter syndrome. Don't know her. I have been always sort of preternaturally confident in my own deal.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
I love that
yeah.
so much.
I more have just like a startled resentment that people don't know what I know about all the value that I bring to any given situation.
You need to quit this and become a guru. Like, you need to start a lifestyle movement that I will join immediately,
right
Jordan.
Now.
I mean, if I were going to join a cult, I think this might be it. This is, but yeah, I think for me, Frances, or that experience, that movie, was a character understanding, like thinking that she needed to find a community, like thinking she needed to fit in with the world. And then at some point realizing, no, you don't have to fit in with the world. You just need to find, and in my case, it's not just one person. It's like, there are going to be just of those few people who out there who are your people. And they're the ones that will get all the stupid jokes and unthinkable things you're doing. And they will either just accept them or they will treasure them. And it doesn't matter if the rest of the world does not understand you, and I think that was very comforting as, a young immigrant. I didn't know I was gay, but I was gay kid who just thought, well, I guess I will just never fit in. And it felt like this impossible task to be part of life. Like, once you realize, you don't need to be part of a group. You just need to find those people who are your people. And they don't even need to be in the same group. They can all be, and that's, like, if you can have a handful of those, then you're winning at life, as far as I'm concerned. So that's what I took from it. Mm-hmm.
Well, and that, as you say that makes me think of like stuff that I've read from you in being asked about Saving Face, and you referencing a number of times that like this movie, making that movie was about saying something to your mother, conveying to your mother that like, I love you, when you could have just like said, I love you the whole time. You're like, I sincerely never considered that an option. Like I've made an indie film about gay Asian American women in 2005. That made more sense to me. But like the notion of the unsaid and conveying through gesture and through glance and through history's shared understanding what you mean to another person.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if I don't have that much work, but if you look at the little bit of work I have, I think one common thread is, it's not what you say, it's what you don't say that matters. And I think my characters are all about subtext. And I think to a large degree, my life is that way too. Like I think about my closest friends or my parents, and that we've gotten so much better at, like, now we do say I love you, although fascinatingly enough with my parents, we say it in English. Like we would never say it in Mandarin. That would just be too gross. just like it's like it would give me the creep. I think it would give people the creepy crawlies. But so we don't even say I love. I take that back. I don't think we say I love you. We like Viber message each other. I love you. In English. Like, and then my mom and my dad are both given to sending these like ridiculously over the top stickers, which is so funny, like the hearts and it's so funny to me.
I love the technology that boomers onward decide they're stoked about. They're like, I don't have anything to do with this whole TikTok business, but these stickers were a great idea by someone, and I'm going to use them all the time. I love it.
It's totally funny because otherwise, like my dad is very stoic, and it's so funny to me. But I think, and I don't think that's unusual. I think that is something that happens with a lot of my friends in my specific demographic. But I do think, yeah, I guess maybe if you were born in a family or a specific culture that values doing and not saying, then it does make sense to be like, yeah, quit your job, figure out how to make a film, go through great sort of odds to make this thing happen. Therefore, at the end of this, if I'm still surviving, then now you must know, is sort of the subconscious rationale.
It's time for a break, but I will be back with Alice Wu, and we will get into her second, very different feeling scene character pick, Holly Hunter's badass news producer in broadcast news. Then at the end, I will have one quick thing before I go about Robert Redford, who passed away this week, and one of my favorite movies that I recommend you check out of his, In Memoriam.
You guys want to try and do this promo with British accents?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Let's do it.
Okay, Iffy, you go.
Oi, bro. This is TV Chef Fantasy League.
Fantasy League. Okay, Sierra.
We take cooking competition shows and treat them like fantasy sports.
Like a newscaster.
Yeah,
Very
fancy.
posh. Right now, we're doing the Great British Bake Off, or the Great British Baking Show if you're listening from the US.
Ooh, that was really
Yeah,
soothing.
you chose like a prim and proper
Thank you.
Downton Abbey.
Thank you. Okay, Iffy, I think you have the best accent. You want to take us home?
Subscribe to TV Chef Fantasy League on MaximumFun.org and wherever you get your podcasts. Better than my Boston one.
Hi, everybody. It's Ellen Weatherford.
And Christian Weatherford.
People say not to judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree.
But we can judge a snake by its ability to fly, or a spider by its ability to dive.
Or a dung beetle by its ability to navigate with the starlight of the Milky Way galaxy.
On Just the Zoo of Us, we rate our favorite animals out of 10 in the categories of physical effectiveness, behavioral ingenuity, and of course, aesthetics.
Guest experts like biologists, ecologists, musicians, comedians, and more join us to share their unique insights into the animal kingdom.
Listen with the whole family on MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
I loved watching them kind of back to back in concert with your first character in Frances Ha and then your second character. One of the straight up greatest movies ever made, broadcast news. Mm-hmm. You suggested Holly Hunter's character of Jane, the hard driving broadcast news producer, working with Albert Brooks, the like crack reporter, and William Hurt, the pretty boy anchor who's brought up from sports because he's just super handsome. And I loved the contrast of Jane, Holly Hunter's Jane, and Greta Gerwig's Frances. In one you have like the most like kind of like scattered and getting her feet under her 20-something, and then in the other you probably have late 30-something Holly Hunter, who is the most certain of herself, grounded in where she is going, professional bad bitch that like could possibly exist. And I want to hear about the complement and the contrast of these characters in your life.
That's so funny. It occurred to me when I suggested this. I'm like, either Jordan's going to think I'm a sociopath because these two are so different, or she's going to get what you did. She's going to get that, oh, okay, she can't find someone who's exactly like her. So now she's going to pick like a patchwork that of sort of beats that really hit hard from these specific characters that then
well, I think it gets to exactly what you said of like the notion of like the sort of compartments of who you are and this life you live in San Francisco with the friends and family and relations you have there, where it's like, what's Criterion? And then when you go off and make a movie and you're on set and you're getting called for interviews and you're having these conversations about you and your work, that other people have this whole file of stuff that they know that has nothing to do with like what the Bay Area version of your life is. That we have those two poles, like I feel like in divergence with Frances and Jane.
Nice, Jane.
New copy. Jane, Craig, just a minute. Then we're going to go to Martin Klein State for the message from Libya. Then you're going to have the carrier pilot from the Sidra in time to... What? No! You missed him! We only have 10 minutes left. How can you talk to me about parking problems? No! Not you'll try. You'll do it! Do it! Or I'll fry your fat ass, Estelle. Goodbye!
I had no idea she was this good.
I saw both these movies in the movie theater, I should say. And so when I think I might have been 16 when I saw Broadcast News. And I was a little worried about giving you that movie because I was worried it was going to seem like I was saying, I think I'm so amazing. That's not, because, you know, it's like this character is so excellent. I was like, that's not it. But it is true that there's a moment in Broadcast News that I think about all the time. And it's this moment where she's at like the house of like the head of the network, I think. And it's like some fancy schmancy house. It's like all these men and their wives. And she's there and she's charged in there. And like they're supposed to be relaxing. And she's like telling him like, no, you can't do this. Da, 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 da. Yeah. And finally the head of the network just says, like dripping with sarcasm, says something like, it must be so nice to think you're the smartest person in every room. And she just looks back at him. It must be nice
to always think you know better, to always think you're the smartest person in the room.
Yes. And she looks back at him completely sincerely and says, no, it's awful.
You're just absolutely right. And I'm absolutely wrong. It must be nice to always believe you know better. To always think you're the smartest person in the room.
No, it's awful.
Tears in her eyes, like tears brimming in her eyes. At this, and she has like a runner throughout this movie is that intermittently she takes a moment alone to break down into sobbing tears by herself.
Yeah.
And it's just this isolated, it's never like we don't get a belabored explanation of it. We just know that periodically, regularly.
Like she schedules it. She sets a timer. She cries. Timer goes off. She stops. She moves on in her life. I'm like, oh, very efficient, which I love efficiency. So I'm not going to lie. That also appealed to me. I'm like, oh, maybe I should do that. Mm-hmm. I know
but
that.
So
like,
that incredible quote, that moment, that exchange with like the super producer, like the top producer and her, you really jibed with that. What about that line really gets you?
You know, it's because, and I want to be clear, it's not that I always think I'm the smartest person in every room. In fact, I often don't think I'm the smartest person in every room, but I have thought that I was the smartest person in the room before. I'm not going to lie. Maybe that's my delusion. And it's so lonely. It's like so lonely. It's not a good feeling. And it also made me think of, you know, maybe this is a very gay thing, but I don't think it's relegated only to you know, queer women. But there's this moment when you're younger, you're friends with like other girls. And then there's a moment when other girls discover boys. And all of a sudden, they start acting kind of stupid around boys.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It is so, like, horrible. Like, it's so... Because I don't feel the same way, and I don't know why I don't feel the same way, and I don't know why they're doing that, and I don't... And it used to... I mean, hopefully things have changed a lot. But, you know, when I entered the workforce in the early 90s, it very much was... I was in computer science, so I surrounded almost exclusively with men.
For sure.
And I definitely felt sort of that, oh, I can't always just say what I think without backlash. And that doesn't mean that I don't push myself to do it, but it's very frustrating. And it's hard not to question oneself because you look around and the guys I'm working with don't seem like they have this problem, right? And so I think about that quote all the time because there are moments when I think, well, I must be wrong then because everyone thinks this is right. But I have this problem where I can't really let go of something in my head if I just don't. Like, I'm wrong all the time, by the way. There are plenty of times when I think, and then I'm just like, oh no, that person's idea is better. So I'm very peaceful when I'm like, I am wrong. They are right. That's actually a relief because now I don't even have to confront them. That's best, But if it's like, oh no, I really don't think this is right. Okay, I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let it go. And then like, oh, I can't let it go. And so, and it was so maybe freeing also to watch her not care and to say it. I wish I could say I was completely there. I'm much more of a people pleaser than I think Jane, the character Jane, is. And to some degree, I think maybe that's good. And I think I do care a lot about other people's feelings. But in some degree, it's not good because I waste a lot of time in my own head or not telling somebody else more simply how I feel. And so again, I think that beat, it felt like, oh, I so recognize that. And I think there's some way that it just, maybe it gave me a level of relief to know here's a character I do admire, like clearly has flaws, but that I do admire. And on some level, it showed me a path that I think about a lot when I used to have to like manage software projects and it'd be all guys. And there'd be times I'm like, I absolutely know this is wrong. And I am terrified. But then I think about that and I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to, I probably came off. It was sheer bravado. Like if you were to ask them, they probably thought she seemed so confident. I was terrified. And I think that it was that where I'm like, no, you know what? I think I have to say and speak that truth. And it's ridiculous that I'm using a movie as like, well, see, that's real. But maybe, as someone who I guess makes film.
But that's why movie theaters are like the most populous public art exhibit that we all go share in on the experience of together. Like that is why this is the most populous medium for getting art in front of people and emotionally engaging with them.
Yeah.
That's why I do the show, because that exact thing is what we get to do with movies.
Yeah, no, I think I haven't never thought about this deeply. So I so appreciate you make, because it's more like a feeling I've had. So I've never actually talked about it. But yes, I think there's something about that. And then again, coupled with just the complete sort of chaotic mess that is Frances and Frances Ha, but that I just it was like cringy, and I loved both these characters have something that I strive toward, which is deep authenticity. They're both very authentic, and they both fully express who they are. And I really love, for me, that is the place I'm always constantly driving toward. And I love that in all of their flaws, like in Frances's, like, the truly, like, as you're watching her, it's just like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And yet it works out, like, I think she had to do that to gain the experience, the emotional experiences. And then we see, and what I love about it is it's not like, and then she becomes this raging success, because that's not what it's about. What you see is her finally being able to be a better friend to her friend, her finally being, because she was very, honestly, she was kind of that nightmare dinner guest. It wasn't like, he's great, all the other dinner guests are crazy. It was like, the other dinner guests, whatever. But she's also slightly of a nightmare dinner guest as well, But you see her sort of get to like, oh, there's a grace and all that awkwardness, that she's still awkward, but there's a grace about it. And I really love that. And maybe maybe getting to see these complicated women characters in a time when there didn't feel like there were enough of them for me to see gave me license to think that, okay, there's going to be some place in the world. I'm not either of these characters exactly, but there will be room somewhere for me to just be me in this entire stew.
Well, and what I felt watching Frances Ha was reading you talk about your work and your preoccupation and the stuff that interests you to write is just people doing their best. And people like who for like, you know, being like for the most part like want the people around them to be happy and they want to be happy. And that feels like watching Frances Ha felt too, like just watching people do the best in their lives that they can, and it might not end up as this most ultimate epic journey, but like we are just watching decisions unfold and in a very relatable way to feel like, you know, we're sort of dropped into people's lives who could be our own lives despite the difference in detail of people's circumstances. Perhaps a white woman from Sacramento who moves to New York City, Greta Gerwig, or watching this Asian American family in New York City, yourself being from the Bay Area, different but yet sharing a similar experience to them. And I felt too that watching between these characters are so different in their intricacies from Jane and Frances. I felt similarly they were very connected to me in seeing the role that these intimate platonic relationships played in their lives, which is so present in both of the movies you've made in different ways. And I thought of you talking about writing the half of it and being, from what you said, inspired by like a kind of friendship dissolution that you had with your friend who was a best friend who was a man. And he started dating a woman who was very uncomfortable with the emotional intimacy that you two shared. It wasn't like, oh, you're going to have an affair, but the emotional intimacy that was so powerful. And that caused a schism between the two of you. And that is something too that we see in both Frances and we see in Jane. With Jane with Albert Brooks and the love triangle involving William Hurt. And then the practically movie that opens in Frances Ha with her breaking up with her boyfriend because he's not that great. And also she has Sophie. And there's so much in her life with Sophie and the apartment that they shared that she doesn't need him. But it prompts her to make big choices about how she lives her life, this intimate platonic connection she has.
Yeah. No, that's I'm like reviewing because it was so beautifully said. I don't know that I have anything to add to that because it was so. But I am actually absorbing.
Bottom line, I thought it was very cool, and I was finding it really interesting how the movies you picked came into conversation with the movies that you have made in a multitude of ways that wouldn't be like, I feel like a parent when you're like, I'm thinking about what broadcast news is about and what Frances Ha is about, and also the half of it in Saving Face, and like obviously these are how these movies exist connected to each other, but it felt very linear to me, kind of all of them in terms of like major aspects of the characters and how they connect to the other people in their lives.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. You're totally right. Yeah, and I do think that while, of course, if anyone says, "Oh, I love this thing," or "This thing inspired me," of course, probably you'll see traces of it in something they do. You're right that there's much more. In both these instances, I'm really glad that you see sort of that they could all be woven from the same cloth or part of a larger tapestry together, that there's some way that they either really inspired something in me or they reflect topics that we're all trying to write about. But it's true. I guess also because I hold those movies in such high esteem, it makes me happy to imagine that my movies could somehow even be in conversation with them, if that makes sense, you know?
The half of it is great, and Saving Face is a fucking classic.
Yeah,
like, no. That's like not editorializing. That is a classic, as is broadcast news. Like, if we're talking about classics of the form, like, I'm going to put these movies in conversation with each other with their thematic similarities. Like, that's a slam dunk.
These days, I sometimes feel like I don't know what inspires me anymore.
Okay. I actually was wondering about that. I was wondering with being so like selective about the things that you didn't even anticipate coming back to the film industry from what I've gathered before you made the half of it. And so it seems like it's got to be really something that pulls you out of this life that you've built in one place to take you far afield and be like, all right, I'm going to go on this journey again that like can be arduous, and I get told no a lot, and I get asked to compromise a lot, and So I do wonder what animates you at this point.
Well, it is funny because I guess when I was a kid, I read a ton of books. And then when I wasn't allowed to watch TV. So I might, I was only allowed like certain classic movies but I remember all those movies so clear. Like my first movie in a theater was Annie Hall, Woody Allen. I went and saw it 3 times. But I was 8 years old, so I have no idea why I loved that movie. Like I don't know what I could have gotten out of it at 8.
Grown-up
but I was
movie
so
to love as an 8-year-old.
Yeah, I was really riveted by Annie Hall. But I bring that up because I can't tell whether it's an age thing, which that might be part of it. But I actually do think that the fact that it's even called content is an issue. But I do feel like I don't think that film and TV has the same kind of cultural influence that it did like 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Not because there isn't incredible stuff being made, but I do wonder. And again, I can't tell. Maybe if you were to talk to 15-year-olds, that is different. But it feels like there's so much out there to watch, and there's so many options. Whereas when I was growing up, there's like 3 TV channels. And
we were in a monocultural experience, like for the most part. Like if a movie was in theaters, you could say that movie to another person, and those were the only movies to know, really. And so you knew what you were talking about.
Exactly. And I think that I wonder, like if you could watch 3 movies a day, it's going to be hard to retain. Like what, you're not going to be like, every now and then you'll kind of remember, but like a movie will hit right now. Everyone is talking about it. And then by the next weekend, it's like nobody is talking about it, which I find so bizarre. And again, I bring this up because I have been thinking a lot about, okay, I love being on set. I love directing. I love the feel of making film. And for me, the only reason for me to do it is if I feel a deeper, as you sort of alluded to, like a deeper pull to, I see. I think this is there's a sense of purpose to this, and I understand why I want to get this made. And I have been thinking about like, okay, I probably will always, just because I love, like if I could, I'd shoot on 35 all the time. Like I'd be very old school about it. And I'm very aware that the audience feels like either it's getting smaller for any specific movie, or it's getting, things are hitting perhaps not as deeply. Like, and I don't know if that's a consequence of our attention span, and so I have been thinking about like, well, if I want to affect change, what are the forms? How do we do that? Like, how do I make something that, the way I was hit by broadcast news and it helped inform, how I wanted to be in the world, right?
I was really interested in something that, talking about, I think it was when you were talking about making the half of it, talking about the issue of like God and faith. And you said that when you were talking about that, you said, at a certain point, I just decided to believe because I just prefer the person that I am when I do. And when I came to that, I finally started writing again. And that was what a time period that led into you writing the half of it. And I'll join 2 questions, which is one, I wanted to know more specifically what you meant about the person that you are when you feel connected to a belief or faith. And I wanted to know, like, to what you were just saying, like, I don't know what is like inspiring me toward a change, like in the way that an embrace of faith catalyzed an openness to write and a desire to write the way that you did it into the half of it. What could, like, are there things around you in your life that where it's like, this is a thing I seize upon that propels me to put something on the page and create characters again?
Oh, wow. Okay. These are such good questions. Let me.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Let me think.
Please take your time.
I guess. I want to be clear. When I say faith, I didn't grow up in any sort of organized religion, and I still am not in one. So for me, it was more that at a certain point, I noticed that there are hard problems that sometimes we, our friends, our family are going through. And I am helpless to figure out how to solve for them.
Right.
And that's very hard for someone who has a part of her brain that's geared toward logic and is like, okay, how do we fix this? How do how do we handle the situation? And well, honestly, what happened was I was reading a lot of different books. I was talking to different people. Every now and then I'd meet someone who's very religious, and I'd have lots of questions. I'd listen to them talk. And one thing that I started doing is I started praying, but not to like a God exactly, but more like if I have a friend going through a very, very difficult time, I will then, before I go to sleep at night, I will put my thoughts toward that, and I will pray for like, I have no idea how to solve this. This is beyond me. But if there is a God, please help, with this situation.
Yeah.
And what I found is that even the most hardened atheist friend would feel comforted when I'd say, hey, I'm not religious or anything, but I'm going to put this in my nightly prayers. And it made me think like, okay, well, then maybe even just for that, like if that provides a level of comfort, and maybe what it really is connection. Like I think one of my driving needs as a human is connection, like authentic connection. And I think that for me is what faith is that I genuinely have zero idea if there is a God, if there's any order to the universe, if this is, frankly, very likely not, who knows? But I also know that if I choose to live my life thinking, well, everything is completely random and there's really no sense of, if there is no order to the universe, then arguably it's almost kind of like you're playing a video game and you might as well just start hacking away at the walls and shooting everyone you see.
Yeah, just button mash your way through it.
Why not? Does it matter? It doesn't, right? And that is not in any way fun or edifying. Like there's nothing satisfying about that. And so I guess that's the place where I just, at a certain point, maybe that I guess is what I think faith is I just chose, like, I don't know if there's order to the universe. I'm going to choose to believe that there's order, and then therefore choose my actions in my life based on the fact that I think that there is and in my head, I like to think of it as a bit more of a benevolent order to the universe. I want to believe that there is good when humans connect with each other authentically. You know what that's actually coming to mind, weirdly, only because we're talking about movies. Another moment in Frances Ha I really remember is when I think she's like back at her college or something, or she's responsible at her dorm, and there's one student who's just clearly having a terrible time and is crying. And
a girl is just sitting crying on the floor.
Yeah, and she just sits there and is like, okay, well, I'll just be here then. And basically has nothing, just like, I don't really have it, but I'm just going to be here. And I love that so much because often that is about as much as I know what to do with my friends when they're going through, because when the problems are hard, if there was an easy solution, they're all smart. They don't need me. They don't need my advice. They would have done it, right?
Yeah.
That, I guess, is what I consider the sort of faith or order of the universe. Like when that can happen, then that's worth it just in and of itself.
I will say to end it off of that thought, if you are wondering if how do you make an impact now, and how do people find things now, and is this the thing that people are interested in now? I think if you make something, you write something that you really believe in. You made a movie the first time and you were like, don't know how this is going to happen, but I'm going to do it. And then 20 years later, you're like, Jesus Christ, 19-year-olds have seen this and they know, like they found it. They found it. They did it. Even in the death of the monoculture, they found it. And I will say that if you find something that you're passionate enough to do, I hope so, because clearly you're extremely 2 for 2 on the films. And I think I would bet on you, and I hope you would bet on you to make something that would connect with people, because you seem to have had a really good sense about that before. And if you just said it there, I think you're just gonna sit here. I'm just gonna sit. That's all I'm gonna do. And I think the people, the crying people in this metaphor are just like the people who need it. They will find it if it's sitting there for them. So I hope you put it there for us to find. That's what I will say to the end of that.
Well, Jordan, thank you so much.
Of course.
That means a lot.
Thank you so much. I am thrilled this got to work out, and I so appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. Big thanks to Alice Wu with Saving Face out on Criterion and its 25th anniversary. There might be a retrospective screening happening near you. Check your local listings. You never know. Could be happening. And get out there and support independent cinema, new and independent cinema of old. Slightly old. Come on, it's just the 2000s. But now that one quick thing before I go. Robert Redford, the Robert Redford, died this week. And my God, I mean, there's nothing I can say that surely hasn't been written and said yet in so many tribute pieces for one of the great stars in the history of Hollywood. It's an extensive IMDb. It's an extensive legacy. It's an extensive everything. He started the Sundance Film Festival after he talked about he looked around his hometown of Los Angeles and he loved it, but he felt like it had developed so much it kind of separated the artist too much from environs where they could be more free to think among the natural world and to foment and create and to, wander through art in their minds and in the process of creation, etc., And so he founded the Sundance Film Festival in Utah. And that is still running 40 plus years on today. I suspect there will be a prevailing theme at the next Sundance Film Festival coming up in Park City. Its very last time in Park City. I feel like there will be a tribute or two on the horizon. A supporter of independent artists, a supporter of the preservation of cinema, a supporter of the perpetuation of cinema, one of the most handsome men that's ever been on a screen, one of the most stylish men. Look him up at any age, any time. I mean, a figure for the ages. But I will just say, specifically, I've seen it coming around on Twitter, people recommending a watch for it, and I could not co-sign it heartily enough. The Robert Redford movie that probably played the most in my house when I was growing up, became a favorite of mine, was absolutely a favorite of my mom's, Sneakers. It is available to watch free with ads on YouTube, actually, so it's super accessible. It is sort of a spy thriller comedy for grown-ups. Robert Redford plays like a white hat in the security space, testing systems for companies to find their loopholes when he's approached by two men purporting to be NSA agents on the up and up, saying that they want him to steal a very important piece of software that is vital for the national security. And once he is essentially strong-armed enough in agreeing to do it, he realizes he pulls a team together, guys. This is middle-aged man Avengers. It is Robert Redford, Sidney Poitier, David Strathern, Dan Aykroyd, Young Gun, River Phoenix popping up in there, Mary McDonnell, and an incredible assemblage of spies and non-spies and tech wizards, all trying to get a hold of this technology that they have stolen, get back a hold of it, because they realize that the people wanting them to do the job in the first place might not have been on the up and up. It has one of my favorite scenes, I think, in any movie ever, featuring Mary McDonnell and Stephen Tobolowsky. Surprise, surprise, Stephen Tobolowsky in somebody's favorite scene, involving the word passport. And it's so fun. It's such a great time. It's not necessarily going to be the thing that top lines a Redford retrospective, of which there is such a bounty of things to choose from, but it's a nice movie. And it's a nice watch. It's a nice time. It's fun. It's exciting. It's one of the best casts I think ever put to screen. And, it's good to have a nice movie when times are tough, which they are for various reasons right now. But we still have the filmographies of our greats, including the Robert Redford, one of the people who has done more to support the cause of cinema in his life than almost any of his peers. And so, to you, Robert Redford, we say thank you. And to everyone listening, we say, go watch Sneakers. What a life he had. And that is our show. You can keep up with us wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us wherever you are listening to get every new episode in your feed as it drops. And you can follow us also on Instagram at Feeling Seen Pod. We are also on Blue Sky. Just search Feeling Seen. If you want to follow me, I am Jor Crew on Twitter and occasionally Blue Sky. And our theme music is by Andrew Epen. This show is produced by Marissa Flaxbart. Our senior producers are Kevin Ferguson and Laura Swisher. And this is a production of Maximum Fun.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows,
supported
directly
by you.